It's no secret that Justin Herbert has come up short in the playoffs so far, but I'm telling you right now, on Sunday night, he's picking up his first playoff victory.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day as part of the #1 sports podcast network. And we have a big one today because we're going to be talking about Justin Herbert getting his first playoff win in Foxborough on Sunday and what that will mean for him to get that monkey off of his back, and also just why maybe the Patriots, with their schedule and some other things that have gone right for them this season, maybe aren't as invincible as they may seem. Then we're also going to be getting into Justin Herbert and just the season he put together, given basically a historically bad offensive line, and also why the John Harbaugh news could be bad news for Jim Harbaugh. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check out the FanDuel's app to see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. David, I know this is something you've had kind of brewing all week, and that you have a feeling this is your, kind of hunch going into this game. And you think that, with the narrative being what it always has been around Justin Herbert since he's kind of taken that leap into stardom at the NFL, not being able to solidify it with the postseason success, but you think that bad streak is going to end on Sunday.
I do. I feel like Justin Herbert is well equipped to go into Foxborough and beat this team on Sunday. And there are 3 reasons why I feel like this Patriots team is not all it's been cracked up to be, and why the Chargers have a very, very good chance to get that victory. And the first of those is the quality of the quarterbacks that they have faced. It is not good. It is not a murderer's row list of quarterbacks. It's quite the opposite. So they have played probably, I would say, 2 quality quarterbacks. That's Josh Allen twice and Aaron Rodgers. The Patriots are 1-2 against those quarterbacks. The rest of the quarterbacks, it's guys like Tua, Bryce Young, Spencer Rattler, Jackson Dart, Tyler Huntley, Brady Cook, Quinn Ewers. Like, it's all of the worst quarterbacks in the National Football League. So the Patriots defense has gotten fat off of the quarterbacks that they've played. And when they've played good quarterbacks, they haven't played as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point. I know a lot of people have, basically said the Patriots have had the easiest schedule this year, and it's one of the easier schedules that any team has had, in quite some time. And I think a big part of that, obviously, is them getting the 4th place, record from last season to go up against this year, whereas the Chargers are getting at a 2nd place schedule, right? And also the fact that you have, 2 layups inside of your division with the Jets and the Dolphins. But more than that, the Patriots have only played 3 teams this year, not playoff teams, 3 teams with an over 500 record. And I mean, really, it's 2 teams because it's the Bills twice and the Steelers, right? They've played 4 games against playoff teams, and one of those was a win against the 8-9 Carolina Panthers, right? The only sub 500 playoff team. And to their credit, and you can only play who you play. And for the most part, outside of the Raiders game, which is one of the flukier wins of the whole season throughout the entire NFL, they dominated those bad teams, right? But also at the same time, you can't ignore the fact that they had 6 games this year against teams who will be picking in the top 6 of the NFL draft in 2026. So it is one of those things where it's just, yes, the Patriots could be all of that, but we haven't really had a chance to see it. And it is a really gross slate of quarterbacks that they've had to go up against. But I think that is why it's not a foregone conclusion that the Chargers get run over by this 2-seed Patriots team, because they are a team that's had and benefited off a really bad schedule, a lot like the Chargers did in 2024.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of similarities there as well, but it's not only the offense that has gotten fat in the defense that's gotten, it's really been the offense that's benefited a lot, because they haven't played against any top 10 scoring defenses at all. Zero games against top 10. The Chargers have played 9. The Chargers are 9th in points per game allowed. They're 8th in rushing yards per game allowed. They're 5th in passing yards per game allowed. And they're 6th in sack percentage. The Patriots have not seen a defense anywhere close to the caliber of the Chargers defense and what they do at every single level. It's not just about stopping the run. It's not just about putting a roof over the coverage and limiting the explosive plays. It's the pass rush. It's the secondary. It's the run stopping ability. And it's the chaos that the Chargers defense is able to create on a week in, week out basis. The Patriots have not seen it, and I don't think they're going to be ready for it on Sunday night.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? The Patriots are a top 5 offense in points per game, but also have played against those bad defenses that have inflated those numbers. And if you look at just the best defenses that they played, right? Statistically in points per game, it's the Bills, who were 12th overall in points per game allowed, the Browns, who were 14th, and the Steelers, who were 17th in a down year by that defense. And they went 2-2 in those games, right? When they came up against average to a slightly above average teams, they were a very mortal team in 2025. So I do think that is something that definitely plays in the Chargers' favor, because you look at it and you say, this is the best defense that they played this year. They have not seen a defense like Jesse Minter's defense. And I think for the Chargers side of things, right, it's going to be just kind of, they have their fatal flaws as well. They're going to have to stop the run, and it's something they'll be talking about throughout the week. But also, you just have to wonder kind of how far away they are from the team that gave up 27 to the Commanders, the team that gave up 38 to the Colts and gave up 35 to the Jaguars, right? How much have you really changed since then? Everything that they've done since that Jaguars blowout has shown us, or at least told us, that they're a much better team, right, than the one that they were then. And we saw it against the Texans, where they got down quickly and were able to settle in and really kind of slow things down and give the Chargers a chance in that game. But also, I think there is one more good reason that you had as to why you think this isn't an unbeatable Patriots team and why the Chargers have a chance and will win.
Yeah, it's because the Patriots haven't played anybody. The Chargers are battle tested. They have 6 games against teams that have made the playoffs this year. The Patriots only have played 3 of those, and they lost 2 of them. Not including the the Carolina Panthers there, because they have a under 500 record.
Yeah, sure.
But they've played the Chargers play the Broncos twice, the Texans, the Steelers, the Eagles, and obviously the Jaguars. The Chargers are 3-3 in those games. And also, this is going to be Justin Herbert's 3rd playoff game and his 2nd in a row. The Patriots are a very, very young football team with a young quarterback in his 2nd year, does not have that level of experience. They don't even have a lot of players on that team that have a lot of playoff experience. The Chargers, on the other hand, they do. They have several players that have a lot of playoff experience, like Derwin James, like obviously Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen. Like, they have guys on both sides of the ball that have been there and that have done that, have experience in the playoffs, and that is very, very important and very valuable. Also, the Chargers are 5-0 in primetime. They like the spotlight, they invite it, and they perform exceptionally well in the spotlight. These are all reasons why I feel very confident that Justin Herbert is going to get his first playoff victory this Sunday night against the Patriots.
Yeah, and I agree with the Chargers kind of being the more battle-tested team, right? Because they've had to face adversity this year and then have come off of it with, 3 separate 3+ game winning streaks during this season. And not included in that 3-3, against playoff team stat is the fact that they also beat Patrick Mahomes twice this year. And I don't care what version of it you think they were. I mean, obviously 2 of their losses that knocked them out of the playoffs were to the Chargers, but that was a team that lost to a lot of good teams and had a really, really tough schedule, just as the Chargers did. And so when when you have those wins against the win against the Broncos and win against the Steelers, and you beat playoff teams and bowl teams that were in the Super Bowl, that does give you a little bit more credibility. And I say the other thing is if things stay close, the Patriots haven't had a lot of that, right? Like, the last time they were really tested was against the Bills, where it was a crazy game. The Bills went up late. Drake May had a chance to respond, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert has 3 game-winning drives and 4th quarter comebacks so far this year. Drake May has 1, right? Justin Herbert, I've asked him to do it 4 times. The only time he wasn't able to get it done was that Giants game, which is probably the most overmatched I've seen the Chargers offense look in any game. And obviously they lost Joe Alt in that game as well. So I think that, yeah, the battle tested part of this, it does make a difference. And even if Justin Herbert's made it twice and has lost twice, though, that being in those games, being in those moments and having those difficulties should make you be able to handle them better this time around. So I think there are a lot of reasons to think the Chargers can beat this Patriots team, even if, they are underdogs going into it, and they're still going to have to play a really good game and also probably get another incredible performance by their quarterback, who has pretty much done something almost no one has ever done with the amount of pressure that he's faced this year. So we're going to talk about that and much more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Hey guys, the draft positions are set and so many teams are looking for their franchise QB. Ever wish to become a pro QB, getting drafted first overall by the Chargers? Well, now you can. There's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number one draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty, as Justin Herbert's trying to do as the latest Chargers quarterback to do it. But this is the number one QB career mode game on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with a full career control, and you can also play the actual games in 2D and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. Ultimate QB is totally free to play and has no ads, works 100% online, so it's perfect when you want to sneak a quick game or two in on the go. Just head to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimateqb.com, or search Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special just for you guys. Use the promo code LOCKEDON, all caps in the game store, to get a free boost to start your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend QB1, it's your legacy. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. You want someone in-network, nearby, with availability, but you also want a doctor who really listens, makes you feel comfortable, explains things clearly, and helps you walk out feeling confident about your next steps. Your diamond in the rough, the doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality, in-network doctors so you can choose someone that you truly connect with. And I know a lot of people, especially me, I've struggled at times going to the doctor and not knowing kind of what the experience is I'm going to have. ZocDoc lets you tailor that to your needs and the things that you like, and just makes you feel so much better about the whole situation. And they also have real-time availability, which means you can book instantly, no phone calls. Appointments usually happen within 24 to 72 hours, and they can even happen same day opening sometimes. If I needed to book care fast, this is the place I would go. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL and instantly book your doctor that you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. David, one of the things we wanted to get into today as the Chargers go and try to get Justin Herbert is that in this, first playoff win this week, is just kind of reflecting on the season that he's had. Because, constantly we're in this show talking about how the Chargers can potentially improve their offensive line, and every week, win or lose, we've talked about, Justin Herbert overcoming some seemingly unsurmountable odds to be able to keep the Chargers in games, and a lot of times go and win them games, sometimes in miraculous fashion. But I think now that we've seen the entire season, it really puts into perspective, what Justin Herbert was able to do behind this offensive line. The fact that this team was able to get 11 wins with the amount of attrition and substitutions and combinations that they had in this offensive line and what they had to deal with offensively is truly incredible. And although he won't win the MVP award, it's hard to say that anyone has been more valuable to their team. I think you saw it last week when Trey Lance had to step in, obviously with some other reserves. But this team, it's 2-win, 3-win, maybe 4-win team if it's not Justin Herbert at quarterback. And I think it's definitely something that has to be kind of talked about at this point. Win or lose this game, it's pretty incredible what Justin Herbert was able to do this year.
Yeah, obviously with unbelievable pressure in his face, and got dropped 129 times per Daniel Popper of The Athletic, which, according to True Media, is the second highest single season total ever recorded since 2000. So that's 25 years, just to put that in perspective.
Since they started tracking it.
Yeah, since they started tracking, which is, obviously a ton. We all thought that it was. We all felt that it was, because it was. An average of over 8 hits per game. Justin Herbert taking those hits, in some of those just taking those and still being able to complete passes to receivers down the field. Like the way he was able to shrug off defenders and fight off of 300-pound defenders hanging off of him, still being able to make plays. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do without his top two tackles, without some of his offensive weapons. No matter what you've thrown at Justin Herbert, it hasn't mattered. He has fought through it, and that's why the Chargers have accumulated 11 wins and are in this position in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like pretty much anywhere you look, right? I mean, like you said, Popper had some great stuff. He put a great article out just about how kind of improbable and the amount of pressure and things that Justin Herbert was under, including, 25 different offensive line combinations in 17 games. Pressured at the highest percentage this year, second most hits, like you said, since 2000. Ben Baldwin on Twitter had a composite pass protection ratings, which had PFF, ESPN, and SIS, which is blown block rate, or how many times you're blowing your block. And it had LA as the 32nd ranked team with a score of 5.
That's last.
Out of 100. And the next closest, lowest score was 17. Like, so it was far.
So way last.
Yeah. And then also, you look at the composite rankings of just the supporting cast from PFF, where it takes the receiving, the rushing, the pass protection, and the run blocking. And where do you see the Chargers? At 30th ranked as far as
almost
supporting cast.
Dead last. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, they obviously had a bunch of running back injuries, and half of that rating is based on basically just protection. And we know how bad the Chargers offensive line has been. But to Daniel Popper's point, he had great quotes in there that you should go check out from Shane Dave. But the biggest, most important thing is just how impressed everyone is that he's still able to play at a high level while taking all these hits. Like, it's almost humanly impossible to be able to get hit as many times as he does and still be able to go up there and have trust that your offensive line is going to get it done the next time, and to not have you be short arming throws or having to get the ball away too quickly. I mean, everyone wants to look at the interception stats that he had. We know how fluky that's been, right? We know how many tip passes and him getting hit while he's throwing has
at least half
contributed. Oh, I'd say more than half of them, and I think that's why, even while being the most pressure quarterback and getting hit a historic amount of times and having an historically bad offensive line, he still had the 7th lowest turnover-worthy throw percentage of anyone that had at least 250 passing attempts. That's 37 quarterbacks who'd had that many passing attempts. He basically did the 7th best taking care of the football percentage-wise. So that part was fluky. He is incredible. And once again, we're going into this playoff run wondering if it's the offensive line that is going to undo them again. But the one thing that we can't argue, though, David, is that he has something that he really has never had or didn't have, especially early on in his career. And while he doesn't have an offensive line, at least Justin Herbert has a defense on the other side of the ball that will give him a chance in every game.
He absolutely does. I talked about it earlier. The Chargers top 10 in passing defense and passing yards allowed, and top 10 in rushing yards allowed, and they're getting after the quarterback. So they have done an excellent job of not only all of those metrics, but they've done a good job of taking the football away as well. They have a great amount of interceptions. Their interception numbers are fantastic. So it's the interceptions, it's the sacks, it's limiting the rushing yards, it's limiting the explosive plays, it's getting Justin Herbert the ball back, and also it's keeping the points down. We know that I believe there's a stat out there that when the Chargers defense gives up less than 20 points, Justin Herbert has never lost. So that's the situation. So, and this year and last year, more than any other time in Justin Herbert's career, the Chargers defense is limiting the opposing offenses and keeping them in those games, even with the lack of support on the offensive side.
Yeah, I don't know if he's undefeated under 20 points, but I know it's an incredibly good record, and most of his career has been spent with a really bad defense, right, where he got the lead for them late and then ended up losing the lead because the defense would end up giving it up. But this was just something that he had to kind of try to overcome as far as bad defenses. I mean, last year, shout out to Jesse Minter, back-to-back top 10 units offensively, right? That deserves a hat tip for sure. But Herbert's defenses is in his career prior to Jesse Minter, 24th in points per game in 2023, 22nd in points per game in 2022, 30th in 2021, which is when he put up 5,000 yards and over 40 total touchdowns, and they still didn't make the playoffs that year. And then 23rd in 2020. Go ahead. Did you have something? I thought you had something.
just to button it up, it's 29-3 lifetime when his defense holds the opposing offenses under 20 points.
And I think the other thing is just that they have proven that they can win you games. And when they've gotten into street fights, going back to the battle-tested part of it, they showed that they can keep them in it for the most part, right? Outside of a few blips on the radar against some teams who have had their numbers, and like that could happen. We have seen them get blown out. But it does feel like a long time ago, and it does feel like this defense has turned a corner. Unfortunately, John Harbaugh just got fired in Baltimore, and I've never been more afraid that Jesse Minter will not be back with the Chargers in 2026. So we're going to talk about that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better because every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing for NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts, and right before the Chargers kick off on Wild Card Weekend, where they are still 3.5-point underdogs against the Patriots. I like the Chargers at plus 3.5. So before tip-off, if you want to get in on that action or any of the NBA action, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We had a lot of big stuff to get into today, but we did also want to give our fans a chance to get involved on today's show and do a little bit of a Chargers mailbag. And we also got the news on Tuesday that even though it wasn't Black Monday, the Ravens decided to part ways with John Harbaugh. A little surprising, maybe something brewing. But man, when you see a name like that go, like it almost felt like, between him and Mike Tomlin, maybe that last game between those guys was, what ended up deciding it. But that specifically for the Chargers, I think is bad news. And I think that's where this Chargers mailbag question comes from. Big Gio, who says, do you think that Jesse Minter is going to be a head coach in this cycle after the Ravens moved on from John Harbaugh? David, what do you think?
The one thing that we see all the time in the NFL is the power of relationships, and we see it manifest all the time when coaches get hired and they put together their coaching staffs. It's always filled with coaches that they've worked with at one place or another. So absolutely, I think the alarm bells should definitely be ringing pretty loudly when you consider Jesse Minter has obvious ties to the Baltimore Ravens organization, as he coached there before, and it would make a whole lot of sense with that familiarity for him to step in with, the way they play defense, with that culture, just with all the connections, for him to step in and be the new head coach of the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, like I said, this is the most afraid I've been. I think for a lot of the year, even with as good as Jesse Minter's defense has been, I've still felt like maybe there's a good chance that he could go back in 2026 and come back to the Chargers. I don't feel good about it anymore, right? Like, he still only has 2 years of DC experience for sure, but at the same time, like, I think there's a multitude of factors why this one is the scariest, and it's like, you could think that, hey, well, he wants to wait for the right opportunity. Well, this feels pretty good. Like, it feels pretty much like the right opportunity. I mean, the fit makes a ton of sense, not just because he worked there, but also because, like, from his standpoint, why wouldn't you want to go to where a multi-time MVP is and an organization whose last two coaches each coached there at least 9 years, right? It's not an organization with a quick trigger. This is an organization that since they were founded in 1996 has had 3 total coaches, right? Talking about longevity, that is what it is. And you're going to a well-run organization that the last 2 coaches have also won Super Bowls. And also, I think Minter can help them get back to the formula that has made them who they are, right? When you think of the Ravens, you think of hard-nosed, tough, physical defenses that lead the way. That's how you win Super Bowls with Joe Flacco and Trent Dilfer. You do it with elite quarterback or with elite defenses, right, to go up against the offenses around the league. And I think, you see guys like Brett Coleman, a big NFL, follow on Twitter, say, enjoy Jesse Minter while you can, Bolt fame. And it just feels like kind of the writing's on the wall, especially when you consider, they decided to let Mike McDonald leave, and what has he been able to do with the Seahawks in that same formula?
Number one seed, right? NFC?
Right, and like I think it's pretty simple. Where you think kind of like where the Chargers style with Brandon Staley, where it's like, okay, well, what if we give Justin Herbert one of the best defenses in the league, right? What if you give Lamar Jackson one of the best defenses in the league, and it feels like it gives them a lot of leeway offensively. So this feels like the one that scares me the most, and maybe they just want to get out of the Harbaugh game altogether, right? Because as much as relationships matter, if you're leaving a Harbaugh, right, maybe you want to go in a totally different direction. Yeah. You don't kind of want to go in a Harbaugh tree, right? So maybe that's the case. But Hernandez says, will the Chargers offer Minter a big payday for him to stay and take over for Jim Harbaugh when he's done? I wish it was that simple, David. I just don't think it is.
No, it definitely isn't. And I've talked about it many times how I would absolutely love for there to be a succession clause in the contract, just because you could just see it right away from the very beginning when Jesse Minter was brought in, how he carries himself, how he handles the media, how articulate he is, just how clearly we all know and understand and feel how much of a football genius that he really is. And, he's so young, but it doesn't feel that way with Jesse Minter. So, and also just knowing Coach Harbaugh, he's very much about his coaching tree and wanting to develop coaches, not just develop players. And obviously the ultimate form of respect when you're developing a coach as a coach is to turn what you are, what your coach is, into what you are, which obviously is a head coach. So I don't feel like Jim Harbaugh, or it's in his nature to hold anyone back or keep them from, achieving the ultimate level of success at that profession, which is being a head coach in the National Football League.
Well, and the good thing too is with Jim Harbaugh having the success that he had at Michigan, you're constantly kind of having to change out coaches and having guys leave for better opportunities. So they're well equipped for it. We've talked about, Steve Quinkskill potentially being the heir apparent there. It would make a lot more sense for him to take the DC job with the Chargers as opposed to being the defensive coordinator under a Jesse Minter, right? But it does mean your cupboards are going to get rated, right? Your coaching staff is going to get rated a little bit. And any deal for a head coaching job, unless you're someone like Chip Kelly, you're going to be making less than what the coordinators make around the league. But I think it's as simple as if Minter comes back to the Chargers and all of a sudden their defense isn't as good next year and they have just a season from hell, nightmare injuries left and right, and all of a sudden he loses some of that shine, you might have missed your opportunity. Ask someone like a Lou Anarumo who's going to, interview again, but he had that, basically helped carry Joe Burrow to the Super Bowl. Wasn't able to kind of take advantage of that, and partly part of that's because other teams had to make their decisions before the Super Bowl was over. Yeah. And then he gets fired, right? And is what was with the Colts this year, and he did a pretty good job with them. But yeah, you have to kind of strike while the iron is hot, and you'd say, well, wait for the right opportunity like a Ben Johnson did. This feels like the right opportunity for him, unfortunately, right? That's a really good one. And there's going to be a lot of, anybody, I think, in their right mind is going to be throwing their hat into that as far as potential coaches for them, too, right? That's a huge
No doubt.
Yeah, and also Chad Alexander, who we'll talk about. I'm a little afraid of the Chargers losing him, too, because he's going to be a GM sooner rather than later. But let's get to this last one here from John Clark, who says, do we finally see the Chargers brand of bully ball that they've been selling us and we've seen developing actually carry through versus New England? Is that our best chance to come away with a big road playoff W? What do you think, David?
I know that they definitely want to play that bigger, more bruising style of football, and we have seen that that's kind of what it looks like when a Jim Harbaugh team is being, kind of put out there, right? And how he wants it to unfold. He doesn't, he's not really into the, put up 40 or 50 on your opponent. Obviously, everybody wants to do that, but it's almost like he wants to win ugly. He wants to beat you up and grind you down and wear you out. And we saw that with the Kansas City Chiefs game in Kansas City, where they showed up and from the very first snap, they were much more physical. They didn't care about the elements, didn't care about they weren't intimidated by the team that they were playing. They showed up, wanted to punch them in the mouth, and they did it repeatedly throughout the football game. And I think we've seen that throughout. I mean, it's more so on the defensive side than the offensive side, but I feel like the offensive identity as far as that is there, and hopefully Amarian Hampton comes back and can be a big part of how that shows itself on Sunday night.
Yeah, by the time, the crossover happens tomorrow, we'll have at least a little bit more information on that as far as who's actually practicing on Wednesday. So that'll be big, as we see that news come out today. But yeah, like the team they want to have is a team that thrives in this situation. Cold weather, physical, defensive game, running the football. I mean, that's the thing. Defense wins championships, right? So like, having guys like a Thule and a Khalil Mack to kind of set the tone for you up front, and Derwin James and Tony Jefferson and enforcers on the back end, that is something that travels. But it also means you have to win the line of scrimmage, right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to stop the run. If you do get the lead, you have to be able to grind them out a little bit. But at the same time, like even through Jim Harbaugh's playoff runs, almost always it's going to be asked of the offense to go get you one, right? And the defense might not show up and give up 27 points. You might have to go outscore them, right? So it is on both sides of the ball, and the boy ball has to be part of it, but you might get caught up in a shootout too and might have to, answer that way. To me, though, like as much as this loss, if they have it, will go on Justin Herbert, like it's not as if this isn't about Jim Harbaugh too, right?
Yeah.
Like Harbaugh's not going to escape all the criticism. It's going to go on Justin Herbert, but like in a vacuum, 2 years without a playoff win when he took over, if I asked pretty much any Chargers fan, they would tell you, that is a disappointment, right? You're taking over, obviously they took over a situation bad from a foundational standpoint, salary cap wise, and they had to clean up a lot, and I think they're trying to build it the right way. But man, you have Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh. Like that should be winning.
Yeah, we need proof of concept.
Because nobody's going to remember the context. Nobody's going to remember, right, that Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt weren't out there. They're just going to know that, Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert are 0-2 together, and Justin Herbert still hasn't won his first playoff game. So go get it done. Go win. Go win this weekend.
Do it.
And and if you do, you get a date with the Broncos for a chance at the AFC Championship game. Let's see something here. They have the defense to do it. As bad as the offensive line has been, you have a chance to completely rewrite the narrative if you're that group, right? And I think if Jamari Sawyer can come back, at least you have the group you felt best about without your top tackles out there. So go get it done. And we'll be talking tomorrow with the Locked On Patriots to get into exactly what is going to determine this matchup. But thank you to all the everydayers who ended up contributing to today's show by hitting us up at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, or Locked On Chargers Facebook page, and giving us your questions there, or calling to the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 and giving us your 30-second Chargers voicemail. We appreciate you guys as always, and to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. And, this has been such a fun season. We've been so enjoying watching you guys get rewarded with a team that you deserve in a lot of way that is getting to compete in the playoff games. And we just hope the Chargers can pay you off for that this weekend with a big time W. But make sure you guys are here tomorrow for the Locked On Crossover Thursday, Locked On Chargers, Locked On Patriots. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.